I don't mind it during the previews, but once that movie starts, you need to stop. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I read Black books. I'm Shuri, and I also really love to watch horror movies. And I especially love seeing Black folk lead horror movies. I remember watching The People Under the Stairs for the first time, and first of all, being scared out of my mind of that movie, but also seeing Fool and being like, this is amazing. There is somebody that looks like me in a movie like this. I think that was one of the first times that I've ever seen that. So I always make an effort to support horror movies with Black leads or supporting actors. I think this year especially started off really well with a couple of Black-led horror movies that I really don't see a lot of people talking about. And these movies I thought were really good, and they had really original concepts. The first was Night Patrol. I don't see a lot of people talking about this movie, and things I do see are kind of like negative things about it, but I really enjoyed this movie. I think everybody did a great job in this movie, and I love the way that it was shot. It was funny and gory and like so unserious. And Justin Long to me has been like the Scream King, but I'm liking this direction that Jermaine Fowler is taking in the horror genre right now. I loved him and that lip in The Blackening. I thought he made a really good villain. So I thought he was really going to steal the screen in this movie, but I was kind of disappointed that he didn't end up turning into a vampire. That was kind of a bummer, but overall, RJ Cyler, Freddie Gibbs, Flying Lotus, and YG, and Nicki Michaud, everybody did a really good job in this movie. This was a oddly good movie. I liked it. And then there was They Will Kill You, starring Zazie or Zazie Beetz. I'm not sure how to say her name, but she did her big one in this movie. I really enjoyed it. I love a good action horror movie. I was entertained from beginning to end, and my favorite part had to be the eyeball following her between the walls. That was disgusting. I watched the movie Strung a couple of weeks ago. Like, what was that? I was led to believe that it was going to be a different kind of movie. And when the credits started coming in and we saw that Blumhouse, that Jason Blum, his little signature thing that he does at the beginning of movies, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. But I was so wrong. So that one was kind of a disappointment. I'm sorry. I plan on watching Backrooms tonight. I have not seen that one yet, but I'm going to watch it here at home. Finally, it's out. I wasn't too pressed to go to the movies to see this movie because I don't know what it is lately, but we have lost proper movie going etiquette. Just something about going to the movies lately that really bothers me, and it's more of the movie going experience and people just not having proper etiquette. For instance, people who get on your phone during the movie. Have you lost your mind? We can see that glare. You don't need to be sitting there scrolling your phone while we're trying to watch a movie. We can see that. People who go see a movie on release day or prior and run to socials to spoil everything about the movie. Have you lost your mind? We get it. You went to go see the movie, but you don't have to let everybody know and possibly spoil things about the movie for people who like to wait till maybe a Sunday afternoon or a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday afternoon to go see the movie. Some people work on the weekends and they can't go see the movie, so we don't need you running to social media to let everybody know that you saw the movie already. And I promise I'm not trying to be mean. I need to talk about this, okay? Number 3, people who talk out loud during the feature movie. I don't mind the previews, but during the feature movie, you are talking. Have you lost your mind? Again, I don't mind it during the previews, but once that movie starts, you need to stop. Number 4, this is my biggest one and one of the biggest reasons why I do not like going to movies anymore. And again, I'm not trying to be mean, but people who see an empty ass theater but still choose the seat right next to you, have you lost your mind? You couldn't pick another empty seat in another empty row. You want to sit right next to me? That is so disrespectful. Please leave a gap in between parties and couples at the movie theater. I don't want to sit right next to you. I picked that seat for a reason, because it had a gap. Again, not trying to be mean, but give people their space. Then this brings me to my last point. If you are sick, stay home. I do not want to hear all that high definition coughing while I'm trying to enjoy a movie that's already quiet anyway, because movies aren't as loud as they used to be. Or maybe I'm just getting old, but I feel like that surround sound isn't surround sounding in movie theaters no more. I feel like the volume is already too low. So if you are there and you are constantly coughing, you should have stayed home. Okay? I give you 1 to 2 coughs and then you need to drink some water. That has just been my experience with going to the movies lately, so I really prefer to watch them at home now. I'm hoping to see more Black-led horror movies being made in the future, but lately all I have been seeing that's coming for this upcoming spooky season and later on in the year are remakes of remakes of remakes. I love Mike Flanagan. I love his work, but I see that they're trying to push this Carrie story, and we're way past Carrie. Carrie was good, but we're kind of over that. They already did a remake and a remake of the remake and a part 2. So why do we need to keep seeing these stories again? The same thing with It. I'm sorry. I prefer the original. I think it was a miniseries of It. That is my favorite one. The 2000s version of It and It Chapter 2. I mean, it has some good graphics. However, I don't know. I prefer the original, and It Welcome to Derry. I don't really see what the purpose was or is, because they're gonna bring that back, but again, we just keep getting the same story over and over and over. I just want to know who is asking for all of these remakes. So let me get to the actual point of this video. So if we can adapt the same story over and over and over, like there aren't millions of other books out there, then can we at least start seriously considering adaptations from Black horror books? Right after I began to plan the concept for this video, I saw a post from Tanana Reevdu, and she was talking about the short film that she and her husband had produced from her graphic novel, The Keeper. And she had said that, she's been in this game for 30 plus years, and the only adaptations she has seen done from her work is ones that she has produced herself. And she goes on to mention that these major production companies have reached out to her about her works, but they never make it past I think she said they never make it past the script stage or something like that. Something was always stopping her works from being developed. And I think that's crazy. That is insane to me, because I can see every one of her works being adapted to a movie or a TV show. They are that good. And I think they would translate really, really well on screen. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the books that I would love to see on the big screen or adapted for TV shows. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about some that already have adaptations or are in the works. There are 2 works by Tanana Reeve that already have screen adaptations, and one that is currently being worked on. The first one is from Devil's Wake, and this one is a short film that is available here on YouTube. It's called Danger Word, and it's based on the beginning of this book, which is like one of my favorite books ever. I really love this book. The short film on YouTube even stars a well-known actor. I'll put the link in the description this time. I know I said it last time, but I forgot. So I will have the link to the short film of Danger Word, which is based on Devil's Wake, in the description box. I can definitely see this as a Walking Dead style TV show. It can definitely have multiple seasons. I see this series geared more towards the younger generation since the characters are really young. It's not a YA novel, but the characters are young adults. But I think it'll still be worth a watch from everyone who loves a good post-apocalyptic zombie outbreak horror show. The second is a story called The Lake, which is found in this book, Ghost Summer. I think it's the first story in this book. It appears in the Black horror anthology Horror Noir that is on Shudder, maybe AMC Plus too, but I think it was made exclusively for Shudder. Horror Noir itself is a full-length movie, but it's an anthology, so I think it has like four to five different stories within the movie. If you are subscribed to Shudder, in which I'm not trying to sell you nothing, but if you have Shudder and you've watched a lot of their horror documentaries, you see Tanana Reeve do a lot giving commentary in these documentaries. So it was no surprise to me that one of her stories was featured in that movie, which is a pretty good movie. There are some big name actors and actresses in that movie as well. It was pretty interesting. With the story from this book, they did a great job at keeping it the same as the book, kind of bringing, this story to life on the screen. Not one of the stories that I would have chose from this book, but it was still good. It's one that she's been very vocal about lately. If you follow her on social media, she talks about this one a lot. Her and her husband have worked really hard on getting this one produced and really getting into screenwriting and film production. And that is The Keeper, which is based on her graphic novel of the same name. I read it a year ago. As someone who's not really into graphic novels, I actually really enjoyed this one. It's really dark, even though the main character is really young. This story does a great job of balancing horror with real life situations. I can't wait to see how they bring this story to life. It's going to be available to stream internationally. I don't know what that means, but hopefully we'll get to see it. Okay, now let's talk about another author who can have their entire catalog adapted, and I will watch every single one of them, and that's Victor LaValle. I loved reading The Changeling. This book was so good to me. I was ecstatic when I heard that it was going to be adapted for a TV series for Apple TV. I watched a few of the episodes, but I quickly started to realize I would rather see this as a movie than as a show. I kind of quickly fell out with the show because I knew what was going to happen. And I had such a good time reading the book. I didn't want the show to ruin it for me. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe I'll go back and watch it. Anyways, it's on Apple TV, and I believe there's only one season right now. And then there's The Devil in Silver, which is on AMC Plus and Shudder right now as the third installment of the show The Terror. This is season 3, The Devil in Silver. I'm on the last episode. I think there's only 6 episodes. I've been drawing it out and taking my time with it, so I'm on the last episode. I'm pretty pleased with what I've seen so far. I really like seeing this story come to life, and they did change a few things in the show, but it helps to make the story make more sense. I understand why they had to change up the pace a little bit and the storyline for the general audience, I guess. The only thing I will say is that I don't know how I feel about Lucci's character. I picture her very different in the book, and there was something about her that is kind of ignored in the show. But overall, there are some really good actors in the show. They're doing a great job, and I like it. I will highly recommend the book and the show. I thought Ring Shot was being developed into a TV series, but I haven't heard anything about it in years. So if anybody knows if this is still on, let me know. Beloved, we all know. I haven't seen this movie yet. I don't know if I'll ever watch it, but it's available. Not really horror, but has some adjacent themes. All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby is getting a Netflix show, I think. I'm pretty excited for this one. I would say for anyone who hasn't read it yet or doesn't plan to, it's gonna have some major trigger warnings, so be aware of that. Again, not really horror, but has gothic elements, is The Street by Ann Petrie. And we talked about a lot of those elements in another video. This one is said to be adapted into a film by and starring Danielle Deadwaller. And I can see this being a really dark and gritty inner city gothic story with no happy ending. And I'm definitely watching it. There's Kindred by Octavia Butler, which is on Hulu, I think. I've never watched it, and I really don't think I will. This is not one of my favorite books by her, but it was still a good story. I just don't feel like I need to watch the show, but it is available for those who are interested. So those are the ones that I know of. If you know any, please let me know in the comments. There's also Bitterroot, the comic series that was said to be coming to the big screen by Regina King, but I haven't heard anything about that lately. I would love to do a separate video on Black fantasy books that I would love to see adapted for film or TV as well. Let's talk about the books I would love to see adapted into movies and TV shows. Let's circle back to Tanana Reeve. Personally, I would take any of her works being adapted into any form of TV show or movie. It's long overdue. The one I would love to see the most is The Good House. I think this would be great as a TV series because it's so layered, but not one of those 6-episode, 1-season shows. This needs to be multiple 10+ episode seasons. I can see it being aimed at the older crowd, but it will also be good with bringing in younger viewers too, with the son's backstory. Kind of like how Widow's Bay and From have these really age diverse characters, but still are very cohesive shows. I think this book would be a good show if it was done in that style. It's about a mother who is lured back to the home that she grew up in and moved her family into at one point, and tragically loses a family member within. And she's drawn back to this house, but there is a sinister force within the house that wants to finish the job. It's really, really good. Another one is My Soul to Keep, or the Living Blood series. I think this one will adapt well to screen and bring in both the younger and older generations. Again, I would like to see this as a TV show because of how layered and detailed it is. There's a lot of backstory, a lot of different characters who can be explored. And the series itself happens over an extensive amount of time, so that can really be explored as well. It's about a group of individuals who have secretly been living for hundreds of years because they all participated in this ritual that granted them immortality. One of them goes against the rule, reveals his secret by bringing others into the fold, sets off this chaotic chain of events that leads to him having to choose between his family and his brotherhood. Many of you will agree that Year of the Witching will make a great movie. I can really see this as an A24 or being something dark and religious like the movie The Witch. It takes place in a similar setting, and it's about a girl who is lured into a forbidden forest and finds the spirits of a coven of witches there who were unalived by her town's leaders. And these witches give her a gift of her mother's diary, and they also use her to set off a series of deadly afflictions on the town. I get chills every time I read this book. And it's one of those books that just leaves you wanting more. We are all hoping for a book too, but I would definitely love to see this in movie theaters. Okay, speaking of dark and religious, you already know. The Running of the Widows is already a cinematic masterpiece in my head. I think this book will be great as a dark horror comedy. And I love the fact that you don't really know what's going on in this story until it's revealed. It's very mind-bending and mysterious, which I think will translate well to the big screen, especially if it's done in a style like Get Out, because it kind of has similar vibes. But this is also very folk horror. There are rules and rituals that must be followed to the T, or you risk being punished by your fellow townsfolk. So it pretty much follows this all Black community where every year they have this ritual sacrifice in which names of certain townsfolk are put into a basket, and whoever's name is drawn at the end of this ritual has been chosen to be moved on. And you can kind of guess what that means. I can see this as being a really dark folk horror comedy, kind of like Wicker Man. Wicker Man was funny to me. The author who should have been had something on the screen is Brandon Massey, and I would watch any book adaptation from him. But the book that I think will have the most success is Frenzied. This can be a really fun, fast-paced zombie outbreak movie. Well, they're not really zombies. It's more of an outbreak that causes extreme rage. But this book is non-stop, action-packed from start to finish. It's one of my favorite books to come back to over and over when I need to get out of a reading slump, or if I just want to feel something like excitement or thrill when I'm reading a book. It's about an outbreak within a small Hallmark Channel community that causes the residents to become extremely angry and volatile and strong and fast and murderous. And it's up to a retired officer and a CDC scientist to literally stop the madness. I think this may have been in development stages, but tragically the author passed away before anything could happen. And that's the Vampire Huntress Legend series by L.A. Banks. This would be such a treat to watch. This is book 3 in my hand right now. I'm currently in the middle of a reread, but I've been stuck on this one for about a year now, but I know exactly where I am. This book series lives in my head rent free. It's about a young woman and her team of musicians and hunters who hunt vampires, demons, and vampire demon hybrids. There are 12 books total in this series, and so much can be done with this series. Whenever I think of vampire lore and demon mythology, I'm always referencing and comparing other books to this series. She did such a great job at establishing and developing hierarchy and levels within the underground. I've never seen any other book like it. She throws a lot at you, but it all comes together so well. I can see it having the same vibes and aesthetic as the Blade movies, kind of that dark, gritty, fantasy underworld style, but structured more like a show like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, with several seasons and episodes. And speaking of Buffy, we need to bring back fantasy horror, so stick with me with this one. Rage of Dragons could be a great fantasy horror show on HBO, like certain other shows. I know it's more of a fantasy, however, those chapters when Tao goes to Isihogo to fight the literal demons and monsters, and when he takes his whole unit to Isihogo with him to fight the monsters to get stronger, that can show up really well on screen, because eventually this is going to lead to the veil between those two realms to fall. And what are we going to be left with? Monsters and demons coming into the realm of the living. I think that will come across as a really good show on HBO. And I really hope we get book 3 of this series very, very soon. Okay, so I don't know anything about filmmaking or TV show producing. With horror films, what I'm seeing lately is that you don't really need huge production costs or fancy or expensive equipment to shoot certain styles of horror movies. And these horror movies are becoming very, very popular with very little budget. So I don't know what's holding up the process of some of these books by Black authors getting produced, but again, I don't know anything about filmmaking. But I hope with this current trend that we start to see even more Black led and Black supported horror movies being made, and that these Black authors who have been writing these great Black horror books get to see their work come to the screen as well. Let me know some of your favorites in the comments. What horror books would you like to see come to the screen? And also give me some horror movie recommendations that you thought were really good this year. Two other ones that I didn't talk about because they weren't Black led was Dust Bunny. I really enjoyed Dust Bunny. And like, speaking of low budget horror movies, I really enjoyed Monkey's Magic Merry-Go-Round, and I'm kind of really liking that style of dark comedy horror low budget movies. So yeah, let me know some of your recommendations in the comments. Thank you for watching.